So the day is getting ever closer, and I've just learned that Mount Juliet has over 80 bunkers, which means it's highly likely I'll end up in one, and I need some help. My bunker play is good, but a bit one-dimensional, and I'm back with Tom Atkinson from Heswell for some help and advice, not only how to get out of a bunker, but to get the ball close to the hole. Today's video has some great advice that will help most of you when next in a bunker. This series has been brought to you by Prime Put. Right, we are back at Heswell Golf Club. Tom, thanks for your help a few days back. I'm practicing hard on what I have learned.
Is it working?
Yeah, it's good, but I've got another problem for you to solve.
Let's go.
The Pro-Am is at Mount Juliet. It's got a horrendous amount of bunkers, and the likelihood is I'll probably end up in one or two. What I want is for you to cast an eye over my sort of bunker technique or lack of, and see if you can help me out.
Absolutely, yeah. You're going to be in a bunker if you've hit a good shot, because it captures good shots, so you need to know how to get out of them.
Well, that's what I need your help with.
Right, so bunker play, big part of the game, as you know. Plenty of bunkers on Mount Juliet, plenty of bunkers up in Scotland. I know you like to go there, but you need to know how to get out of them. Yep. But you also need to know how to control your shot out of them, how to control distance and how to control spin. Are you a good bunker player?
Well, I think, you know, kiss of death if I say yeah. I wouldn't say I'm a good bunker player. I'd say that I don't fear being in one. Good. But I think I'm kind of one-dimensional in terms of getting the ball out. Okay. You know, I reach for the same club. I'd probably hit a similar shot. Yeah. Irrelevant to distance. Yeah. And it'd be the only thing that would differ is the kind of how hard I hit it. Okay. Trying to get further or shorter. Yeah. Well,
that's not a bad start. Obviously, if you don't fear being in a bunker, there's a lot of people who hate the bunkers, and then when they hear that a tour pro would rather be in the bunker, you see them hit a shot, get in the bunker, and they're thinking, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Why would they rather be in a bunker? Because they've got a lot more chance of controlling the distance. Can't speak this morning. The speed, the spin. Outside the bunker, it's much more difficult to play a full shot, controllable shot. So it's all about their ability to control distance and control spin, and they're probably thinking about holing the bunker shot, whereas a lot of people are thinking about just getting it out. You're in the middle, you don't mind, you're going to get it out, but it sounds to me like you've got a little bit of a sort of a go-to, bit of a one-trick pony. So
it would. That's exactly
we'll have a look at it.
Okay, bud. Right.
Jump. So throw a ball in.
Can I not place it?
Place it. Give yourself a reasonably good lie.
That's good.
What we've got to have a look at when we're talking about bunkers is, if you're not confident, then getting it out is key, obviously. Yeah. If you're a bit more like you, and you know you're going to get it out pretty much all the time, you've got to then think about how close you can get it. Okay. Whether you want to leave it below the hole, above the hole, depending on where the flag is. The lie is very, very important. So I notice you've already picked out your club before you even knew the lie. Now that's an interesting thing. That's because you're confident with that club. Yeah. I'll never take you away from what you're confident with, okay? The bunkers are nice at the moment. You can have different lies in the bunkers. Like I say, you can have lots of sand, no sand, compact sand. You can have a plugged lie. So we have to try and tackle as much of that as we can, so that if that eventuality comes when you're in your Pro-Am, you can deal with it. Okay. But let's just assume this is a sort of standard depth of sand, and it's a standard bunker shot. Yeah. Do you want me to let's see how you do it.
Have a go. Yeah.
Yeah. Bit of check on that, Andy?
Yeah, I mean,
happy with that?
I was really happy with it. I mean, that was better than, that's a good shot for me.
Good shot, yeah.
But it's kind of like I said, that's the shot I would play.
That's the shot,
irrelevant of. And
what is the club you've chosen?
So I play 58. Okay. So I always, like I said, I play I just go to the most lofted club. Yeah. You're right in your assessment already, and you haven't even seen me hit a shot. It's kind of like, in between, do I want to hole it? No, never think about that. Okay. My first thing, I mean, we've got a fairly low lip here, but my thing would be just to get the ball up and trying to be putting.
Yes, giving yourself a chance. Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I do disagree with the fact that you're not trying to hole it. Yeah. Because if you're not trying to hole it, you're trying to miss it. Yeah. And you're not trying to miss it, are you? So you should always think, whether you're chipping, you're pitching, you're putting, or you're playing out the bunker, you should always try and hole it. Yeah. Because you get yourself into the right frame of mind. Yeah. And I suppose if you're thinking I'm trying to hole it, you're not thinking, I hope I don't leave it in the bunker. So there's a mental aspect to that. Yeah. So the lofty club makes sense on such a short-sided shot, because you want to stop the ball as quick as possible. Also makes sense when you've got a big lip in front of you. Your technique, I've seen one shot. Your technique looks good so far. You hit a really good shot. You've hit it to about 8 feet. Have you had bunker lessons?
No.
Okay, so if you weren't going to hit a good shot, the game is about bad shots, what would generally happen to you? Do you feel like you'd leave it in the bunker?
I get heavy.
You get it heavy.
I tend to take, and like you said, trying to, you again, I like what you said earlier about assessing the sand and,
yes.
you know, kind of, and I think, I always think first shot of the day is in a bunker is harder because you've never, you know, you're not
Absolutely
tested it, so to speak. But yeah, that'll be my thing, maybe not getting that assessment right, and it'll still be the same logic that I apply to the shot type.
Yeah. And that's where it's got to change, because it's all about the delivery. So in a standard bunker shot like you've played there, what you're trying to do is you're trying to take a sort of consistent divot to right. You're trying to scoop, don't like the word scoop in golf, you're trying to scoop the sand, and it's actually the sand that travels under the ball that gives it its sort of friction and spin and its height to get out. You're trying to take a nice sort of consistent divot from start to back, if you like. If the sand, then we can try and mock it up, and if the sand is a little bit firmer, you don't want to be as shallow. You want to sort of get a little bit steeper and maybe change your posture a little bit, because the bounce of the club underneath is probably going to actually deflect off the sand and you end up thinning it.
Got you.
The interesting one is for you there that you take too much sand.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is a case that the ball is at the sort of front of the bunker. Yeah. There's a lot more sand there, and you've got to probably get even shallower on that.
Right.
And the way that you would change that, interesting. Before you said that you just hit it harder or you hit it softer.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
It's actually, and we'll do a little bit of work on it. It's actually more to do with how you release the club.
Okay.
As opposed to how hard you hit it.
Okay.
It would be nice to be able to sort of work on, if you're as good as that there, work on different releases, if you like.
Okay.
And how you then deliver the front of the club into the sand, or the back of the club, the middle of the club, and that's what the bounce of the wedge is for. Let me see you play another one. Let's call it another standard one. So you've got a decent. That's interesting, actually. We've thrown it into a footprint. So how would you? Hopefully, there's no footprints by the time you go out and play your pro. But how would you assess that lie now?
I wouldn't. I mean, I'm going to be, perfectly honest with you. I would play this shot just like I said, exactly the same as I've played the first one. Yeah. Even though it's in a footprint, it's probably the footprint's just compacted the sand right on the top. It's probably not deeply compacted sand. If let's just say, I mean, we're in a situation now where the sand is pretty fluffy throughout, so we don't really have that hard compacted sand availability. But let's just assume there that was a little bit more of a hard pan. Yeah. How would you deal with that? Honestly, just like I said, I would just take this. I would hit it harder. I would think that because the sand is heavier, and maybe I'm going to, be there's a bit of force against me in terms of, let's say it's a wet bunker or something like that. Yes. I would just be a little bit more aggressive with the swing.
But you'd probably, because you've not learned it or been taught it, you'd probably deliver the club the same way.
Yeah.
Let's just have a little bit of a chat about that. So, swap places with me. Stand there, Andy.
Yep.
Now, I don't want to do anything, in anyone's game to sort of interrupt their natural ability to play a good shot. Your posture, for me, is a pretty standard, for that first shot, standard bunker posture. What we're looking for, really, you actually, as well, you're standing in a more modern, square sort of setup to a bunker shot. So 30, 40, 50, 100 years ago, you'd see people, and I'm one of these people still probably, who would open up a lot and sort of slice the ball out the bunker.
Okay.
And that will work, but it's much more difficult to control the spin and the speed. So you stand, whether you know it or not, you stand a lot squarer, and you're delivering the club with less of an open face, but you're still using the bounce of the club, and it was good. You're playing a good shot, but you might not know why you're playing a good shot, and that can be dangerous, because if you start playing bad shots, you don't realise what you're doing different. You can't identify the difference. So if I was given a bunker clinic now, let's say, and people have never played before, I'd just talk about the type of posture we want to be in, and we're going to change the posture slightly for the more compacted shot that we were sort of discussing here. So what I want to try and do, if I'm trying to be shallow and I'm trying to just release the club underneath the ball and scoop the sand out like you did there, I would have a fairly wide stance like you did. I'd have the ball probably just inside the left heel, so it's further forward. That's going to give me that shallow angle of attack. Probably keep the lower body, the weight forward, but with this shallow angle, I want to probably keep my spine back a little bit.
Okay.
I don't want to be leaning into the shot, as you see a lot of people doing when I'm trying to be shallow.
Got you.
Because I want to introduce and sort of allow myself to release that club this way. Okay. If it was, just what we're talking about, this footprint, a bit more compacted, what I'd be doing, I might put the ball slightly further back in the stance, because what that will do, it'll take a bit of loft off. So you might want to increase how much, or certainly if you were using a 54, go to your 58. We'll talk about your loft change in a minute, but maybe add a little bit of the open face to it. Yeah. Because as I'm going slightly further forward with my hands or my shaft, because the ball's further back, I'm just going to tip a bit of loft off. But the reason why I'm doing this is so that I can get a little bit of a sort of sharper leading edge into the back of the ball, so I'm slightly steeper.
Yes.
Okay. So rather than being sort of sat back with my chest and allowing the hands to sort of flick the club underneath the ball, I'm going to be a little bit more left-sided. It's, you know, this is not a compacted bunker here. What have I got? I've got a 54. I probably would change it up a little bit, but I want to feel as though I'm probably a little bit wristier in the backswing, and then deliver it with a sharper, steeper. Almost probably stop here, so the release of the club is not as sort of loose and flicky. It's more of a sort of stab into the bunker. Come and give that a go, because you've got your 58 there.
Yeah.
So same flag. You'll probably notice here that the ball's not going to spin as much.
No.
So you know, getting it out of the bunkers first and foremost. There'll be a little bit more release on the ball. So bit more. That's good. Bit more weight on the front foot. Good. Bit more chest over the front foot. Yeah, that's good. You want to put a bit more loft on the club than that, Andy. That's it. Now, a bit steeper in the backswing, and more of a stab, more of a sort of stabby, almost like the club's going to stop on the way through.
Prime Putt make the very best putting mats that are the closest to reality in a surface that resembles tour grade turf. This is as realistic as it gets, and with speeds that measure between 9 and 11 on the stimp, you can be assured that your putting practice can make a huge difference when stepping out onto the golf course and into reality. This is practice that really will help lower your scores. Thank you to Prime Putt for their support on this journey. Please find out more on the link in the description.
Good.
Oh, wow.
There you go. So you see how that ball there has released out a little bit more?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've played a compact type of bunker shot from a situation where the sand is not that compact, but that's giving you an option of trying that when you get into that situation. But clearly there, the ball released a little bit more. That's because you've not got that sort of scoopy sort of friction release, and it chased out a little bit more.
It's really interesting though, again, it's kind of the misconception, or we did it the other day with kind of like, we were using the bounce for the shorter game, pushing the ball further forward. I said to you, I feel like I'm presenting the leading edge, and thought I was going to thin it.
Yes.
In that situation where you had me there, if I'm honest with you, I just thought I was just going to stab into the floor.
You felt like there's not going to be enough loft.
Yeah.
So
it's really interesting the kind of like the reverse kind of happened. That's why I was a bit shocked as to
see it come out. See
it release so well,
Exactly, and you know, there's a situation that you might get, hopefully not, where you've got a plugged lie as well. Same sort of story, because even though you're stabbier, your hands are further forward, you've still got so much loft on the club. You know, 58 degrees of loft on such a small lip like that is still sufficient to get it going.
Would you play that type of shot on a sort of, if the flag was further away?
It would depend on the lie.
Depends on the lie, really.
It would depend on the lie. I think what I'd probably do, and we'll have a look at it in a minute, is those sort of ones whereby you've got a load of green between your ball and the flag. I think what we're going to try and do is decrease the loft.
Okay.
So you've already sort of gone to your go-to 58, and you're going to hit it harder. The problem with hitting it harder over such a sort of long distance is it's very, very difficult to control your distance.
Okay.
You've got to fly that ball so far, so I'd be looking at reducing the loft.
Okay.
Right down, really.
Maybe have a look at that.
Should we have a look at that now?
Yeah.
So if we play away from that flag, maybe, so we've got a little bit more, green to work with.
Absolutely. So this kind of scenario, it'd be kind of like, I'd be frightened to death. I mean, to be honest, I've been in this position with a lot of people on the balcony.
A lot of glass behind you.
Yeah, and it's a worrying one, you know, when at this point it's like, I think that's one of the hardest shots that I would be faced with.
Yeah, the longer bunker shot is sort of famed to be the hardest shot in golf, really.
Yeah.
You know, maybe 100 yards is more difficult. This is more like a 25, 30 yarder. What are you worried about?
I think putting a big enough swing, because I would still be with me 58.
Yep.
I've got two things, you know, it's either, I would be worried about just how hard I hit it if I get it wrong then. With such a big swing, an aggressive swing, that'd be my fear.
So the problem then might be that you don't commit to it and you leave it in the bunker?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or, just chunk it out here, whatever.
Okay, let's have a look at how you would play it. So you picked your 58 again.
I would have done, yeah.
Talk me through it. How are you going to make that ball get to that flag?
I would look to take a slightly, less sand than I did on the shorter sided shot.
Yeah.
And I would play exactly the same.
Let's
like
see
I said.
Let's play it.
I'm genuinely worried for the windows.
Yeah, and there you go. So,
and that's what I do.
You do that all the time.
Probably.
Yeah, so. It's not a bad shot, is it? If the flag was there,
it's not the end of the world. Yeah, it's out.
It's out.
But it's a long way from that flag.
So this is what I'm talking about. Where for me, you can't just have a one set of rules for a bunker. This time, the lie was good. The lie was a standard lie, so it was, the bunkers are consistent. But the flag was completely different.
Yeah.
Okay, and you've managed to get that out, and it's pretty much stopped dead.
Yeah.
So you'd next time probably try and hit it harder.
Yeah.
But you're saying you don't want to hit it harder for fear of hitting it too far.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got to change loft, Andy.
Yeah.
And you've got to get used to changing loft.
Yeah.
So straight away, what if I said let's change loft? What are you going to change to?
Well, I suppose incrementally I would try it. So I would just be, I'd be down to the 54 again, because and then 50. I go 50, and then I'm thinking, have I got enough loft on the club?
Okay.
So then I'm worrying.
Well, let's go extreme then.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm going to give you?
Go on.
9-iron.
Okie doke.
Now, straight away, I'm asking you to play a 9-iron.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? What are your thoughts? What's your feeling?
I've got two things. One, the face.
Correct.
And two, the windows.
Still the windows. The face is the most obvious one, because you're probably thinking 9-iron. 9-iron goes, what, 145s, whatever it is for you. You're thinking, well, I only need to hit it 25 yards. It's not going to have enough loft to get out the bunker.
Yeah.
We're in the practice bunker, so you can try it. If you hit the ball first, you're going to go through the window.
Yeah.
So, but you like taking sand. It's interesting that you're going to vary the amount of sand you take to produce a different distance shot.
Yeah.
That's a high skill level, that.
Okay.
Not saying you haven't got that skill level, but why not? This is what we're doing. Why not change the loft of the club and try and play a pretty standard shot? So if you go and play that sort of consistent shallow divot shot with that 9-iron, you're going to open the face up a little bit.
Right.
Just to try and overcome that initial height of the lip. But what should happen is it should land similar sort of position to where you've just put the 58.
And release a bit.
Correct. That's good. So what's happened there is you've actually caught that slightly heavy.
Yeah.
Which is probably due to the fact that a few people were walking past, you still had all that clubhouse behind you, and you weren't fully committed to it. If it was a field behind you there, you might have maybe got it a little bit. Having said that, you finished it probably, what,
closer.
10 foot, 15 foot from the flag. First one's about 35 foot from the flag. Did it look like it was going to struggle to get over the lip?
No, not that I was.
No,
not that I was
no, it's hard to see when you're in the sort of the throes of playing the shot, but it was well out. So that is an alternative in a situation like this where you've got a good lie. To hitting your 58 harder, because you're going to get that run out, and with a bit of practice, which is what you're going to be subject to doing on the back of all this, you'll get a cleaner shot with that.
Well, I think that's it. That's very, very alien for me to look down on. So I think just the more you practice, the more commitment I could have in that shot, when in reality.
Absolutely.
That's what I'd say about that.
The other thing is the psychological element of it. I don't know if you ever heard this story, but Seve used to practice with like 3 irons out of the bunker. And he used to get them out because he was Seve. But one of the reasons he did it was because then when he got into a tournament and he had a sand wedge in his hand, it just looked so easy. It's like practicing to a big hole or a small hole. Do you know what I mean? So if you can get, you can get a 9-iron out, you're always going to get your lob wedge out. Do you want to play another one?
What I will say is we ain't doing the 3-iron drill, are we?
We're not doing the 3-iron drill, no. Let's play another one. So let's have another go at that. See, last time was good. It wasn't lacking in confidence. It was a little bit tentative because of what we talked about. Same again, nice shallow divot. Good. Hits the green, releases up a little bit closer.
Yeah. It's really good.
It's going to work, isn't it? It's, as I say.
Yeah. It's just a surprise. Like I said, I wouldn't go for I would never play that 9-iron in that situation.
No.
And if anything, like I said, going back to the reference of the people behind the thing, and jokes aside, it's kind of, that's a less riskier shot than the first one I actually played. If
you clip it clean, it's going to go further, and you're in trouble. But if you get it anything like sand first, like you're doing, and you're a good bunker player, Andy, it's less risky. It's certainly less risky for smashing the windows. but it's less risky as far as getting the ball close to the hole as well, because it's always going to release.
Yeah, I assume, again, you know, the downside would be if I ever kind of like quit on that. It's, you know, you've got to have that positivity, haven't you, through it?
Absolutely right, yeah, and you know, that goes without saying in most shots. If you pick a shot, this is what the tour pros are good at. If their task is they've got to hit that ball, they're going to hit it.
Yeah.
And if it goes out of bounds or it stays in the bunker,
but the commitment's
they
there.
deal with it afterwards. But the commitment's there because they've got no choice. They've got to hit the shot. We're not going to be standing here playing all of the different bunker shots that you're going to face, but I would say you could probably go down to an 8-iron.
Yeah.
Then anything 7-iron and down, it gets a bit tricky because you've got a much smaller face, but more importantly, you've got a much narrower sole, so that the sole of the club is not going to be interacting with the sand the way it should do. But if you've got an 8 or a 9-iron and then you've got your lob wedge, you've got all of those clubs in between and your 54 and your 50 to have a go with. Yeah.
Right, so you've saved the best to last, and you've left me with a bit of a plugged one again, something that most golfers will fear, and it would be my worst nightmare if I seen that. That's not what, you know, I'm not happy at that.
Not happy at that at all. No, the good old fried egg.
Yeah.
So what don't you like about it?
I think just this would be the one where I probably would change club, and rightly or wrongly, but my understanding would be you would play this with less loft than I have done. So again, you can correct me on that in a little bit. And I probably would play with, even though I think we sort of suggested that I don't open the face, this would be something I would play a little bit squarer in terms of the way I'd try and play it.
Okay, good. So what are your thought processes behind that? So you're less loft in your hand, and you're less loft at the address, i.e. squarer.
Yeah. Don't know. Just again, whether I've read it or it's something that's in my mind.
No problem. Let's see if it works.
Okay.
So what have you got? 54.
54. I'd go down to.
Okay. It's a good shot.
And again, I'd be happy with it. Do you know what I mean? I'd take that.
100% you would.
I think a bit steeper as well was my kind of thing. When I stood over the ball, I remembered, and I hadn't sort of said that.
So, in a plugged lie, you know, getting it close to the flag is going to be difficult.
Okay.
You know, if the flag is further away from you, as it is in this situation, it's going to be easier. Short-sided plug lie, very, very difficult because you just can't get that sort of friction, that scoopiness underneath the sand. It's very much more a digging the sort of blade into the back and then allowing the loft that you've got in your hand to pop it up and go. You did well. Committing to the shot is very, very important because you're clearly going to be hitting more sand because the ball is really buried in there. So the resistance that your club is going to face through that sand is going to need extra speed.
Yeah.
You will play that shot the way you want to play it with the club you want to play it. I would suggest that certainly if it was a little bit more short-sided and you've already told me you want to be steeper, it would make sense to go with more loft.
Okay.
So you might, you know, if you had a 60, you'd probably use that. You've got a 58. Just because as you're going to be hitting down and steepening your downswing, the ball might go slightly further back in your stance. You're going to then try and sort of neutralise that by having a loftier club.
You're de-lofting it, are you?
You're de-lofting it in how you set up and how you impact. Because you can't, if you go shallow at it, you're not going to get the ball out. You're going to take too much sand. It's going to hit the lip. Okay. This is a fairly shallow-lipped bunker. If you got one of those at St Andrews, if you were in the road hole and you were plugged, then you know a plug lie in there would be a disaster. But you'd have to go for as much loft as you can.
Right.
So you played it well, and you got it out. It didn't release as far as you'd like it to, and it will release less, I guess, with a 58. But I'd like to see you. Let's just put another one in there. I'd like to see you try it with your 58.
Yeah.
Just to try and. So that's and you know, the first one was a real plug. That's more of a sort of 2/3 plug, if you like. If you've got your 58, and you know you've got to hit it that little bit harder because it's the loftier club, you're probably going to commit to it a little bit more. And it's not so bad in the practice bunker. As far as commitment, because there's no emotion. It doesn't really matter. But if you go out in your pro-am and you're a little bit nervous, and you don't, you know, you're in the front of the bunker, and then you've got another shot to face. So go with your 58.
Okie doke.
Maybe slightly further back in your stance, maybe middle rather than forward of middle. Little bit of the same as the compact lie, Andy. Little bit more of a sort of lean onto your left leg with your chest. More of a sort of pick it up quick. Less of a follow through, more of a stab, and give it a little bit of a whack. So it came out.
So you actually did all right, didn't it?
It came out, yeah. So you know. if you deliver the club into the sand too soon, that's going to start to twist the face, and that's probably what happened in that situation there. But at the end of the day, even though it was the 58, because it wasn't a clean enough strike, it actually came out and started to run. But you're not going to face that many plugged lies you would hope in a round of golf. If you got it out on the green and you got it out to 15
I'd take that all day, mate.
You take it all day. The key thing there is knowing what you're going to do, and obviously taking that onto the practice ground and continuing to sort of boost your confidence of playing the shot.
Absolutely.
But again, like you started with, what you're doing is good stuff. I think we need to get you more confidence so that you are going to be one of those players who's looking to try and hold it rather than just get it out.
Well, I think the big thing for me and has been in all the lessons, whatever you want to call them, we've had with Tom over the last few days. You asked me about the short game. When did you have the short game lesson? Never. When did you have your wedge lesson? Never. When did you have your bunker lesson? Never.
Yes.
And I've learned so much. I think.
Yes.
I think I know it all. You play golf for 30 odd years. You think you kind of know something, but there's a heck of a lot that I was missing out.
Yeah, we're always learning. Yeah, but you know, you're right there, and you've got stuff to go and practice. But you should never detract from the fact that your natural ability to do it has got you this far already.
Yeah.
So you know, you're a naturally skillful golfer, but it's when you're trying to we're trying to get your handicap down from 15 to 12 or 12 to 3 and 3 to +3. You need to have a wider skill set.
I think that's where I've been kind of like one trick pony in a number of situations, and like I said, whilst getting the ball out is, you know, it's okay, it's not the end of the world, but giving yourself you're talking about holding it, even just giving yourself a chance of making the putt on the up and down is a massive difference to your scores.
Get inside that 8-foot PGA Tour 50% stat, then you know you're going to be saving yourself 2 or 3 shots.
Which leads us on really to the next part of the equation. First of all, thanks again, Tom. Brilliant. Really enjoyed that. I hope you're taking something from this. Our time scales are running out. We're getting ever closer to that D-Day. But I have got a look next coming up is going to be my putting, and just see if we can get that ball out and close. Can I hole a few more putts? So that's going to be the next one up in a couple of days' time. Make sure you keep on watching, and I will see you all 2 days from now with Tom helping my putting stroke.